This is the Highly Sensitive Club, episode number 63.
Have you been told you're too sensitive, too dramatic, or too much? Do you have big feelings and deep thoughts you don't always know what to do with? I'm Stephanie Linn, a certified life coach and highly sensitive person. I've helped dozens of highly sensitive clients feel more energized, more confident, and more in control of their high sensitivity. In these episodes, you'll get the information and inspiration to level up your life as a highly sensitive person too. Welcome to the Highly Sensitive Club.
Hello, highly sensitive person, and welcome to this week's episode of the Highly Sensitive Club. Today's topic is about passive versus active processing. I have mentioned this topic in many podcast episodes before this, but this is the first time that I'm actually seeing the effects of different styles of processing with my clients. So as I'm helping them work through what type of processing works for them and why certain things work and certain things don't work, I wanted to turn around and share it with you today because I know this is going to be extremely helpful for you. As a highly sensitive person, we take in more input than the average person. This means that when you walk into a room, you're assessing the temperature, the light quality, the sounds. You're checking to see what the overall vibe seems to be, how people are interacting with each other. You can assess body language or facial expressions and see what people are thinking and feeling, or at least be able to tell that something is going on at a glance. This is stuff that we do as highly sensitive people automatically. For other people, it can seem strange that you're taking in so much information and you're processing so many things. But for us, this is just how we operate. If anybody tells you, I don't know why you're getting so worked up about this, it's because their brain works differently than yours and they are not taking in as much information. What happens with highly sensitive people like us is when we are processing effectively, we are making great decisions, we are assessing our thoughts and our rules and figuring out if they work for us. We're behaving and acting in a way that feels very much aligned with who we want to be and what our integrity is. When we're processing in a more passive way or ineffectively, we're taking in a bunch of information and we're consuming, but it's not leading anywhere. You're not getting any lessons. You're not getting any takeaways from the processing that you're doing. It's almost like you're just trying to keep your head above water and you're treading water in this ocean of information that you're taking in. I have talked about this with a few of my clients recently, and I noticed that this is something that comes up a lot with highly sensitive people. Sometimes we can even overstimulate ourselves by the amount of information that we're processing internally. Especially as we get older or as you're learning new things, you have more experiences and more frames of reference to draw on. As you're going through your day and you're taking in information, you can connect it to all of these previous dots and patterns that are going on subconsciously or in the background that you might not even be aware of. This happens very naturally, but it happens for highly sensitive people in particular because there's a lot going on in our minds. We need processing time to be able to sort through all of these things. Typically, what I see from highly sensitive people who are really struggling with the amount of processing that they need is a lot of passive processing. Passive processing is when you're going about your day, you're taking care of chores, you're doing your work, you're interacting with people, and you've got something that's sitting in the background. The benefit of that is that you are getting some perspective and some distance from the situation. Just like when you're solving a puzzle, sometimes getting a little bit of space from it or taking a break and coming back to it gives you the opportunity for your mind to supply you with new answers. The perspective and the distance can be extremely helpful when you're processing something because you just need to get into a different context or you need to give your brain a break in order to come up with the breakthrough to solve whatever the problem is. When you're doing this passive processing, where something is on the back burner, you know that it's back there and you're thinking through it in these little snippets. Sometimes that can be the perfect thing for you to be able to make progress if you feel like you're too close to something. Passive processing is really great when you find that you're in rumination, you have recurring thoughts over and over again, and they don't seem to be going anywhere. They're creating the same intense emotions for you. They're bringing up the same memories or the same sensations you had when you first experienced them, and these thoughts keep recurring. This is when you might want to take a break and where some passive processing would be very beneficial to you. Go find another activity to do. cook a meal, do a puzzle, watch a little TV, go for a walk. That is the pro of when you're stuck in that rumination and you're overthinking something and you can't get out of your cycle. That is when you need to step out of it for a little while. However, where highly sensitive people tend to run into problems with passive processing is that it comes out in weird ways. When you're spending all of your time passively processing and it's always in the background, you never bring it forward to give it the time and attention that it needs in a productive way. This is when you're waking up in the middle of the night and your brain will not shut up at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning, because that's the only time you've given yourself quiet and silence, and you're not taking care of anyone or anything else. You've trained your brain to think, this is my opportunity. Now is the time to process all of those things that I have been ignoring throughout my entire day. This is very common for highly sensitive people, that you either have trouble falling asleep or you fall asleep and then you wake up in the middle of the night and you do all of your processing then. That's when you haven't done any active processing and your brain is trying to find outlets for this energy and this input that you're trying to make sense of. One of the other drawbacks to passive processing is that you can tell that something's off, but you're not sure what's going on. I had this very experience today where things are going really well in my life. I've got money in the bank, business is going really well, my relationships are fantastic, I'm losing weight, I've been going to yoga classes, I've been taking walks, I've been reading great books. So many things are going well. And today in particular, I wanted to run away and play video games and watch comfort TV. And I thought, that's really weird. What is going on there? Because normally when things are going well, I want to continue to take action. I want to clean things up. I want to communicate with people. I want to connect with them. What is going on here? I did my morning pages. If you have listened to previous episodes, I'm sure you've heard me talk about the artist's way. And that's usually my best processing time, to get what's in my head onto a piece of paper so that I can look at it more objectively. I wasn't entirely sure what was going on until I started to write, and I discovered that there was a people-pleasing aspect of me that had been coming out recently in my relationships. I found that I wasn't deciding for myself what decisions I wanted to make and how I wanted to show up in relationships. I was just taking requests and doing things that my friends or my loved ones were asking me to do without really considering whether it was the right thing for me or whether I was behind the action. I was just trying to do what they asked because I was hoping that it would make them feel better, and then I didn't have to deal with uncomfortable conversations or uncomfortable conflict. That never works, because no matter what you do as a highly sensitive person, you can't control how other people feel. They're still going to feel however they feel, regardless of the actions or the behaviors that you do. This is a people-pleasing mask that I come back to regularly. I imagine you probably have this as well, highly sensitive person, because this is a very common coping mechanism for us. Recognizing that discrepancy between, this is how my life is, but I want to run away from it, is a good indication that you've been doing passive processing, but you haven't made enough time for active processing, which is why I made time for active processing this morning. Some other weird ways that passive processing might be coming out are if your response or your reaction to something feels disproportionate to what actually happened, especially if you've had similar situations happen in the past and they didn't bother you at all. This is a good indication that there's something you've been passively processing that needs to have some active time and some active energy for you to get it out of your system. If you're disproportionately reacting to things, if you're crying at things that don't make sense and that don't follow any of your typical patterns, or if you're yelling at people, or if you want to run away from your life, these are all indications that you are in passive processing mode and something needs to be done about it. I had clients who are having trouble falling asleep or having trouble staying asleep, and we go through this process, talk about active processing, and create that space and that time. Suddenly they get better sleep. It's very easy to go through the motions in your day-to-day life, to continue to work, do chores, make your meals, answer your text messages, your emails, whatever it is, and you fill your day with activities and tasks that you don't make the time to process the things that are really going on underneath the surface. And they come out in these weird ways. On the other hand, active processing is when you are not only putting your focused attention and energy into processing something active that you need to work through, but you're also doing it in a productive way. when you're creating the space and the energy to take a look at something from an objective perspective, usually when your emotions are more mellow so that you're not overactivated and you're not flooding your system with the emotions, then you can start to do some active processing and figure out what is going on in my head that is keeping me so distracted or taking my time and my energy. You can do this in a number of ways. You can set time and space aside somewhere private. We highly sensitive people tend to be extremely aware of other people in our spaces, even if they're on the other side of the house or on the other side of the office. Pick a space where you're not going to be overly aware of other people so that you can fully be with yourself and do this processing without having any concerns of someone walking in on you, disrupting you, etc. This could be worry time, where you give yourself 15 to 20 minutes to sit down and write down all of the worries that you have. Many of us highly sensitive people have a lot of anxiety, or we're thinking of potential issues that could come up so that we can try and anticipate how we can solve them ahead of time. This helps us feel more prepared, and it's that look before you leap mentality that highly sensitive people really benefit from. Having that time to get all of your worries out on paper or to put them in a voice memo can help you actively process through everything that's going on. You see it objectively, and then you can make decisions about how likely it is, what kind of solutions you want to make, and get it out of your system so that you're not holding it in your body and holding it in your mind and your heart. Meditation can be a great way to do some active processing. If you are a mindfulness meditation person, which means that you're focused on being present with your body, usually your breath, you can use some of your mindfulness meditation to activate different brain waves so that your brain is in a different state of mind. Then you can take an extra 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes to think through whatever the problem is that you're trying to work through. This can be a great way that meditation and processing time work well together so that you're getting yourself into the right state of mind and you're using it productively and actively. Journaling is a huge way to do active processing. I have to admit, I was very resistant to journaling for a very long time. I had people going into my journals when I was growing up and reading them and mocking me for them. I learned very early not to put my thoughts onto paper with people that I couldn't trust. As an adult, reading The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, I rediscovered the benefits of journaling and getting my thoughts out onto paper. Luckily, my journals are in a safe place, and I trust that the people who would come across them are not going to judge me or make fun of me for the thoughts that I have. Pretty much anything I would put in a journal, I've said to someone that I trust anyway. This can be a fantastic way for you to get your thoughts out. In a lot of coaching programs, we call this a thought download. You're taking all of your thoughts and you're dumping it onto a sheet of paper or a couple sheets of paper. This can be a great way to empty out your thoughts. You'll find this magic thing happens where the deeper thoughts, the things that are really under the surface, start to come out after you get rid of all of the surface level thoughts. If you're done chronicling your day, the actual thoughts and the actual problem can come out. You have to clear the surface so that you can get below. Journaling is a fantastic way, but if you don't feel comfortable or you don't feel safe writing out your thoughts, there are so many other options for you as well. You can go for a walk. The woman who created EMDR, the therapeutic technique, found that when she looked left and right, she was able to calm her nervous system down and access a different part of her thinking process so that she could make calmer decisions. This is how EMDR works. There's a back and forth motion, whether it's touch or sound or some other type of sensation, that helps you activate both parts of your brain. Walking does the same thing. Bilateral movement helps you activate both your left and right hemisphere. So it helps you process on an analytical and a creative level. This is why so many people have epiphanies when they're out walking, because you're activating both parts of your brain so that you can come up with creative solutions and let your mind wander. A really good walk could be helpful. Maybe a slow moving process like yoga would be helpful for you. Maybe you go to a sauna and that's where you do your meditation and you do your processing. Whatever this looks like for you, try to incorporate something physical. People do wonderful processing when they're dancing, Or, much like meditation, dancing can help you access the part of you that's a little bit more loose, more creative, so that you get yourself into the right headspace to be able to do the active processing that's truly beneficial for you. Of course, I am not going to discount therapy or coaching as processing options. Therapists are trained to help you go through things from your past that are keeping you stuck. They're trained to help you deal with anxiety, depression, addiction. I am very much pro therapy and want you to go and heal the things that are feeling like they're keeping you stuck in your life, that are keeping you from being functional and having the life that you want. Having a therapist who's trained to help you process the patterns that you can't see yourself is so valuable. I did it on and off for 3 or 4 years, and I still have occasional checkup appointments with my therapist to be able to address things that are coming up in the moment. A coach is much more focused on helping you go from where you are in the present, which is functional, to where you want to go. This is when you have that really uncomfortable feeling that you really want something in your life and you're tired of going through the motions, but you don't know how to move forward. If you are constantly processing in the background how unhappy you are about your job, how unhappy you are with a family relationship or a romantic relationship, if you're sick of having the health problems that you're having, or you really want to start a new side gig, or you really want to go out on your own and start a business, a coach is fantastic for those topics. And you can find a coach for anything you want to get coached on. We help you process these things and see it from that outside perspective. We can help you see where your thought process is getting stuck or looping so that we can help you break out of that cycle and get into some new patterns of thinking, behaving, and believing. This is my favorite thing to do in coaching, and this is what I have done every single session with my clients who have been processing how to process. This is an active space where I create the container for my clients to show up and do that active processing and bring things to the surface in a conversation. You might have writer's block, but nobody ever gets talker's block. A few well-timed questions can be so effective to help you figure out where you're keeping yourself stuck or where you can't see a solution that might be more obvious and more available to you than you're giving yourself credit for. Whether you talk to someone, whether you move your body, whether you write it down, whether you schedule time to worry or process, whatever it is, create that active processing space. It does require a little bit of energy. You might not have the option to have a quiet, silent space or to not have people around you due to your life circumstances. But the more you can create just a little bit of a buffer between you and other people, or to bring someone in who's trained to help you have these kind of conversations in a very productive way, the better you're going to be able to actively process. There is a balance, to sum this up, between passive processing and active processing. There are times where you need a little bit of perspective and you need to put something down for a while and come back to it later, where passive processing can be really helpful to you. A new experience or a new perspective or a different conversation might be exactly the thing you need to come up with that solution. However, I will give you the caveat, highly sensitive person, that you are probably doing way more passive processing than you would like, and the solution is actually to do some active processing. It's to set aside that half an hour for you to sit in silence or to lie on the bed or to go for a walk so that you can actually figure out what's under the surface that's bothering you. You can have that conversation. You can do your meditation. I highly recommend journaling because there's something about the slowness of writing and the connection between your hand to your brain that brings out things that you wouldn't otherwise expect. Whatever you do, highly sensitive person, I want to encourage you this week to make some time to actively process. You can schedule your worry time. You can schedule some time to process with someone. You can plan a conversation where you ask the other person, I just need you to listen for a little while, and then you can respond to what I have to say. Are you willing to do that? Whatever that looks like for you, try out different methods of actively processing. My clients are trying this method or that method to figure out what the thing is for them. It is not a bad thing that you process this way. You don't have to judge yourself. You don't have to resent it. You don't have to resist it. Processing is part of your brain cycle as a highly sensitive person. And everybody processes, but you need more processing time than the average person because of the amount of external and internal input you are working through every single day. The more active time you give yourself to process things, you'll find the quicker you move through solutions, the more creative you are, and the more regulated you feel in your body and in your nervous system. Our nervous system runs hotter than other people's. So if you plan some time to do active processing, you actually calm your nervous system, you give it space, and you let your brain know, yes, I've got you. We have time for this. I am going to make time so that I can actually do the thing that you need to do. Your brain can suddenly relax and not wake you up at 3 a.m. with lots of things to tell you. I hope this episode was helpful for you and to normalize that, yes, you highly sensitive person need more time to process. If you would like someone who is trained to help you process and figure out what's blocking you, I would love to help you do that. Go to stephanielynn.com and book a call with me. It's completely free. And the best part about the call is that you will walk away with so much clarity on what's actually happening. If you are stuck in rumination, if you're going over the same thoughts and the same beliefs and the same patterns and you're having trouble breaking that cycle, I can tell you in that one conversation what is keeping you stuck and what's the solution moving forward. If you want to work with me after that point, we can have that conversation. You will walk away with way more clarity than you had before we entered the conversation. Go to stephanielynn.com to book that consultation call. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed it and that you plan some active processing time, and I will see you on the next one.
Thanks for listening. If you're ready to take what you learned today to the next level, head over to stephanielynn, that's LINN.com, and book a consultation call to get started. I can't wait to see you there, my dear HSP.